Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to deploy the loopback API to Heroku and also how to deploy the Ember app to Surge and a few customizations that we're going to have to make so that we can connect the two together. So on the left I have a terminal window open for the Ember app, and on the right I have a terminal window open for the loopback API. So we're going to start with the Ember app first, and I opened this up in Atom. And one thing you're going to notice is whether you used Ember Data or Ajax, just plain Ajax using jQuery, you know probably so far in this class we've just been hard coding these localhost URLs throughout different parts of our app, and when we deploy this to Surge or Heroku or wherever, that's not going to actually work because localhost is just on our computer. So we need a way to abstract this out, and there's a place for this in Ember Apps, and this is the environment file. So what we can do is actually take this URL, and wherever you have this in different files, you'll cut this out. And there's a file called config environment. And so we can create different environment variables based on the environment. So there's a development environment, which is basically when we run Ember serve, that's development. When we deploy to Surge, it actually runs it under a production environment, so we could have a different URL for here. So what we can do is we can set up the default URL inside this development block. So we could say env, so this is that global variable env, and we could say we'll create one called API host. So we'll save that there. And then we'll also have another one down here. So we'll say env.API host is equal to some Heroku URL, which we'll fill in a little bit. Okay, so we've saved this, and we need to now fill this in. So we can say import config from, and now we need a path. And so the path is actually, if we open up package.json, you'll have a name for your app, so you can say Ember Data Demo. That's what we called this one. So the path is Ember Data Demo /config/environment. And if we looked at this environment file, we attach it to this env variable, and this is the thing that gets actually returned. So we can we can just say config dot. So config is basically env, and then API host. So API host. Okay, so let's see if this works. I'm going to run Ember serve, paste this in here, open up the console, refresh, go to /posts, or let's see. When we click on post, it looks like, okay, adapter operation failed. Okay, so it is going to localhost 3000 API/post, so it is going in the right spot. Now, if we went back to environment and we change this to something else, let's just say HTTP, or let's actually just change the port number. So we'll say 3300. This will refresh. Okay, so we can see 3300. So it is working. So I'm going to leave this here as is. And you'll want to do this throughout wherever you hard-code a localhost in your app. So in this little app, I've only done it in one spot, but you may have it in several places. So the Ember app should be good. Okay, so now let's tackle the API part. I'm going to stop Ember server. Okay, so we can start up our loopback API just by running node period, and this is localhost 3000. And actually, this is localhost 3000. Our Ember app, we should not have localhost 3000. They need to be on two different ones. So let's just say 4000. This way, we could have both running at the same time, since they would be really running together. Okay, so we go to localhost 3000. Cool. We get our JSON. Let's see how to deploy this to Heroku. Okay, so Heroku is called a platform as a service. It's basically a nice way to host your applications. In the past, you probably maybe have used something like GoDaddy or just one of those simple hosting options where you just kind of FTP your files up and things just kind of work. You're basically sharing, I think, like servers with other people that are using the service, unless you get maybe some higher plans. But Heroku, it integrates nicely with Git, so you can say like Git push and it will automatically deploy it, and you can deploy a wide range of technologies including Node, PHP, Ruby. Scaling is also really nice in there, and it's just kind of like a very developer convenient way of deploying your app. So I think the first thing that you need to do is sign up. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Okay, so once you log into Heroku, you can go to the dashboard and create a new app. So if you see this new button in the right hand corner, click on create new app, and then we can give it a name. So in this case, I'll call it ITP 404-blog demo. Or you know what, let's call it blog API. Okay, so we'll say create app. And you can see a bunch of different options here. You can even do cool things like when you push it up to GitHub, it will automatically deploy your app. That's really convenient. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as Heroku Git. And we should be good to go. Okay, so there's basically you want to just follow these instructions right here. So Heroku comes with a command line utility, and so this allows us to log into Heroku from the command line. And so I'm going to stop our API server, and I've already CD'd into my project, so I don't think I've set up Git. So I'll say Git init. So I'll say Git status. Okay, so everything's looks like it's cool. I'm going to say git add all, git commit, add files. Cool, so we've made a repository out of our API. And then we're going to, I've already logged into Heroku. So just if you have it, since this will probably be your first time, run this command, and it's just going to ask you for your username and password. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to run this Heroku git command. Basically, this is whenever you have a Git repo, you're normally pushing it up to GitHub, and that GitHub, where you're pushing it to is called a remote repository because it's remote. And we're going to create another remote, but this time on Heroku. So typically, your GitHub remote is called origin, so that's why you say something like git push origin master. But now we're going to say git push Heroku master, so just a different remote. And so this command right here will basically create another remote. Okay, so it added this for us, so it's a Heroku URL. And all we really have to do is just say git push Heroku master. So it's going to detect that a Node app is running, and it does this based on whether it sees a package.json file in our app. So here's that package.json that sees a Node app. Other apps like PHP, if it sees a certain file, it's going to detect it as a PHP app. So that's kind of how it knows. Okay, so once you've done that, here's the URL. So let's visit it and see if this works. Cool. Okay, so it looks like it's working. And I think if we had /API/post, so we have an empty array. Okay, so now that we've done this, we're going to take this URL right here, and we're going to add it to our Ember app. So we're going to say API host is this URL. And now let's deploy our Ember app to Surge. I'll go back to my terminal window for Ember, and I'm going to say, I don't think I've added Surge here, so I'll say Ember install. I forget exactly the name, but let's see, Ember Surge. Let's see, Ember install, Ember CLI Surge. So we'll install this add-on. Okay, and then I'm going to run ember surge. Alright, so I'm going to copy the surge URL, paste it here, and we can see our app. I'm going to open up the console just to make sure we don't have any kind of errors going on. And I click on posts, and it looks like everything's working. So it is using this production environment, API host environment variable that we created. So I'll create a few things, create a post, I'll just say post 1, post 2. So it all looks like it's working. So I go to my API now and refresh. You can see here it is. Now this is all just being kept in memory, so if Heroku kind of restarts, then this will actually go away. So I'm not, sometimes they'll actually shut down your running app on the free plan just to save on resources. So you may notice that, but you just won't know when that exactly is. So you can't rely on this always being there. But in the end, now you have a working URL to kind of share with your friends of both your client, your Ember app, and your API. One thing I forgot to mention is, so how does Heroku even know how to run your API? Because normally what we do is we go to our command line and then we just say node period in our app. But not all node apps start this way. As we looked yesterday when we did a simple Express app, we did node and then app.js, or we could have called that file anything we wanted. So how did Heroku know to run that specific command? Well, if you look at our package.json file inside the API, there's something under scripts called start, and this is that node period that we always run. So actually, you can run npm run start, and this is just a convention, so this will actually boot up that, it'll run that command because it'll run that start command right here. And I think you can also run npm start. So basically it does the same thing. So that's kind of how Heroku knows what to run.